Hi, everyone. Welcome to another edition of All Access with me. And it's another eventful summer day, and there is much to discuss about where Avalanche is and where we're going. And without further ado, let me just dive in and tell you about where my mind has been in the last week. So, since I last spoke to you about a week ago, much has happened. And the thing that by far gives me the biggest source of happiness, the biggest source of accomplishment, the thing that I'm most proud of is the release of the Core wallet. Now, Core is not just a wallet. It's not meant to be just a wallet, but it's easiest for most people to think of it as a wallet. Think of it as a MetaMask replacement. It's something that lives inside your browser and does everything that a modern wallet should do. Now, what are those things? Well, it has to not suck. So this one doesn't suck. To the contrary, it actually excels at what it does, which is give you control over your digital assets across multiple networks. The big news, the Core Wallet was released, I don't know, maybe about a month ago. The big news today is that it just added support for Ethereum, it added support for Avalanche Subnets, and all EVM-compatible chains. So this can be your full ledger replacement, and in fact, it is mine. And this can be your sole portal to digital assets across multiple networks. And in my opinion, this is by far the best wallet for managing assets across multiple chains. In my opinion, again, this is as good an experience as it gets. So I personally have to field questions from people when things go south. I personally have had to deal with my friends and everybody else writing to me and saying, hey, I did a swap on Pangolin, I did a swap on Trader Joe, and the assets that I got are not in Ledger. I can't see them I can't see them in MetaMask. I have had to deal with all sorts of questions. I bought some NFTs. Where do I see them? What do I have to do? Why am I beholden to a centralized website in this universe of Web3 to just see my NFTs and then, of course, to later do things with them? So Web3 has been incredibly tough. It's been hard to use. Those of you who are following, I know you guys are at the cutting edge of tech. I know to you this is like second nature, but it's not for most people. And I know you know how hard it is for other people because I bet, like me, that you have been called into service to help other people figure out how to use MetaMask, how to use a ledger, etc., etc. So the fight. You know how hard it is, and you know where we are. People are just the tooling we have is just so far from where it ought to be. Interacting with Web3 should be seamless. Now that we have fast chains, it should just be an immediate thing, and you shouldn't have to have a new mindset. Remember the mindset we used to have when we used to use Bitcoin? You issue a transaction, you wait an hour, and all of the tooling was built for that. That was abysmal, right? It was absolutely abysmal. Even today, now that we have the bridge support for bringing Bitcoin into Avalanche, I see these Bitcoin people come in and they are so tolerant of delays and they have a very different worldview. It just reminds me of the old days. It's kind of like dial-up, looking at the dial-up modem once you've had ADSL. Now, MetaMask also is built for a slow universe. You would do a transaction and then it takes a while for it to confirm. And while that's happening, you're just waiting there, like trying to figure out where you are, what happened to your transaction, etc. And you have to deal with these hexadecimal digits and so on and so on. It's just an absolutely horrible experience. The Web3 experience has been so far. Core changes all this. That was the purpose of issuing this thing. It's high time that people who know what they're doing, people who know how to build good product market fit, come into this new space, which is the space of wallets, and create a different experience for users. Now, that experience should be multi-chain. The future is multi-chain. There's no universe where there is one winner. Everybody who was a maximalist has net lost money. Everybody who has been a maximalist has been dead in the water. So if we look at these features that Core offers, they are here to make your life, the user's life, a lot easier. You all, the tech savvy folks who know what you're doing, you don't really need much coaching, but I know you spend a lot of time coaching others. and you shouldn't have to. You should just be able to pick stuff up and interact with your dApps and my dApps and everybody else's dApps. And until now, it's been tough. So Core is designed to make that better, and Core is here with a commitment to iterate fast. It's different from the other things out there. Those guys, I don't know what they're doing, but everybody stagnates. I don't know why. Ledger Nano S is still a Ledger Nano S, and then the Ledger Nano X or whatever came after it is still the same dumb device. It hasn't really improved. There's a lot of this in this crypto space for some reason. People build the minimum viable product and they feel accomplished for having done the MVP, and then they stop. They get the liquidity first, then the MVP comes, if it comes, years later. But if it does come, it's so rare that the people who brought it to you feel like, oh, I'm done now. We're different. I kept telling everybody we bring a different ethos to the space. Core is a different ethos. It's here. It provides all of the services you might need. It puts a proper veneer on them that doesn't require crypto savviness to use, and it's here to onboard the next set of billion people. It offers instant asset swaps. It offers secure bridging. You don't have to go anywhere else to do bridging stuff. You do it inside Core. You can do fiat on-ramp from Core itself. So you install Core, and then you say, I want to buy some AVAX. You can just do it. It has all of this and a lot more. What else does it have? Well, it says, what does the slide say? It says, yes, the Web3 vision is compelling. The reality has fallen far short of the vision. The experience has been abysmal. It's just people like us who've been able to use this thing. The opportunities to make money in about a year ago were insane. But the thing that hampered most people, and I watched, my best friends, my closest friends, with just great pain in my chest. The thing that hinders most people is the difficulty of interacting with these services, of navigating the yield farming, of navigating all these dApps and so forth. We are here to change that. So start with Core. It's a much better foundation. And come along on this journey with us, because we're committed to making this a lot easier. So the extension looks like this. It should be familiar to you, except hopefully a little easier to use compared to everything else. Things that you might know from MetaMask, things that you might be used to, like adding a token, etc., etc. You don't have to do here. It's all in there. You just get assets, and the assets are displayed automatically. Your collectibles are displayed inside. So all of your assets are under one roof, one extension, and you can easily switch networks and accounts as one should. And you can also very easily get a historical account of your activity. So it supports Ethereum. It supports Ethereum L2s. Let that be said that we have nothing against L2s. It's just what we're calling out reality, that they are not trustless today. They're not decentralized today. So they go against the crypto ethos. If you're a real, true crypto OG, then and you're not in the business of selling hopes and dreams to people, you're selling feasible, actual, realized technologies. L2s aren't there, but we support them if people want to use them. It supports Avalanche subnets, and it even supports chains such as Tron and Phantom. So take a look. Core makes it a breeze to track and control digital assets. Yes, it does. It's fast. It's built for a fast chain. So, tooling that's built for slow chains is going to give you all sorts of delays. It's going to pretend that things happen that didn't actually happen. It's going to make your life a living hell. This is different. This is really for a fast finality chain. It's intuitive to use, and it's got universal EVM support. It also supports Bitcoin. I told people this, before, but let's also briefly go through it again. Core allows you to hold Bitcoin, to bridge it into Avalanche, and then once it's within Avalanche, then you can do whatever the heck you want with it. Typically, you want to use it as collateral because it's valuable, and you want to use it as a store of value, especially if you want to convert, you want to borrow against your Bitcoin. You don't want to sell your Bitcoin. Well, then you can do that with Avalanche's DeFi system. Bridge over your Bitcoins, hold them inside, provide them as liquidity to become an LP in a DeFi application, or go and borrow against them, use them as collateral, whatever. The sky's the limit, whatever you might want to do. So that's all things you can do with the Bitcoin support in Core. It also supports native and automatic support for custom subnets. So you don't have to manually configure for new networks or tokens. It's just they're all there. So you bring it up and it looks kind of like this if under the networks tab. And it should be an easy, convenient thing for most people. Um, as our networks scale, it's going to be harder and harder to navigate all this stuff. And if we were to leave this up to other people, we would have faced the mediocrity of the Twitter space, of crypto Twitter, of crypto in general. So on average, things are average, and average people do average things, and they're fine. They kind of produce software, it's kind of like and we don't want you to be using software for interacting with the world's fastest, coolest chain. We want you to be using something that really shows you the speed of this network, the scale of this network, the ease of use of this network. And we want people to have a blockchain in the background and interact with it without even realizing that they're doing so. So that's our vision. And with Core, we took a major step towards it. We now currently provide the front end experience as well as the world's best back end experience. And it's only going to get better from here with planned updates and changes, and not changes, but planned updates and expansion to Core. As I said, it's kind of like a wallet, but it's not going to be a wallet by the time we're done with this. It's going to be a full-on experience for anything digital, anything and everything digital and blockchain. So if you want to play with it, it's so easy to do. Just go to the Chrome store and search for Core Wallet, or Core Avalanche, whatever you might want to look for. There it is. We've got this owl. I'm not a big fan of the current logo. That will probably change, but I love the owl. Owls are wise. They're up at night. They're constantly brooding. They've got weird eyes and constantly looking around. And they have situational awareness because they can rotate their heads seemingly 360 degrees. And they're cute as heck. So I think it's a cool, very, very cool logo. So it's time to ditch the fox. Foxes are cool too, but the tech behind the fox is kind of outdated. Owls are even wiser and better. So try the owl. It's good. It's really good, and I think you won't regret it. Okay, so what else is happening? I was in a sappy mood. I finally got some rest, and it's been a long journey for a bunch of us at Ava Labs, and coupled with the pandemic, it has been tough. I know it's been tough for a lot of people, and I actually know it's been really, really tough for a bunch of people not in crypto as well. But it was a time of so this summer has been a time of reflection and rest for me, and the last 4 weeks or so I've been in this secluded location behind me that you might see, and it's been great to recharge, rest, and it gave me some time to think about where we are and what we're doing, and some people do this every night. A lot of kids do this every night, which it's called gratitude. Before you go to sleep, you just mentally go through those things for which you are grateful, things that happened that day, or things that you thought about that day that made you grateful to be where you are. It's a very useful exercise. There's a billion other exercises to keep your sanity in a world that sometimes seems kind of out of control. And but this one's good, and so I decided, okay, I'm in a sappy mood, and happy and sappy mood, and it's good to take stock of where we are. And it's good to sort of do this exercise and see what we should be grateful for. So first of all, I should say that I'm super grateful that Avalanche keeps on ticking. This is something that I can say very proudly. It is something that very few others can say. And why can I say this? Because Avalanche has been working flawlessly through countless market ups and downs. We've lived through some insane price action. Every time there's price action, there's arbitrage opportunities on chain. Every time there's arbitrage opportunities on chain, there's an immense mound of traffic for all of the nodes to process through. It's not easy work. Anybody who tells you that, oh, this blockchain stuff is sorted out, etc., no. Building a global database that ticks at the speed of Visa or above is really, really hard. And something I knew going into this was that proof of stake protocols designed the way that everybody else does them, designed the way that crypto Twitter would have you do it, would yield systems that are very fragile. Why? Because deep down, those systems would end up having a classical consensus protocol underneath, and those things are very, very fragile. You don't have to take my word for this. I'm just an expert who spent umpteen years on this, 20 years on distributed systems. But, I know a lot of people like to hear from other people who they respect. Satoshi said the same thing. Satoshi was well aware of all of the classical consensus protocols that were existing at the time that he invented his proof of work system. He knew all about classical protocols. He knew all about signature accrual protocols. And he decided that they were unsuitable. Now, who's using those protocols? Everybody else. So you look at any proof of stake system, Solana, classical, ETH2, classical, etc., etc. All these systems are classical consensus protocols, and it's widely known that these systems are fragile. Talk to people who are doing the proof of stake transition. When I talk to the proof of stake people working on ETH2, they told me point blank that they do expect consensus failures, 100%. So these systems are fragile, and that's why they have a lot of these complications. And then each of the complications that they add, like slashing and so forth, become their own attack vectors that bring on those very failures that they were designed against. So there's a whole lot of complexity there. There's a reason why these systems take forever to build, have taken certain projects many, half a decade or more to get together. There's a reason why these are hard. And I knew when going down this path that Avalanche would yield a far more robust underlying system. And I'm grateful for what we've got. We've got a system that has been ticking through flawlessly ever since inception. In fact, ever since inception, we had one issue. We had one network slowdown on the C chain where we ended up having an issue because of cross-chain transfers from X to C. And that's and I felt absolutely horrible when that happened, and it created a lot of negativity for some reason because our user base was so new and they weren't they didn't know what to expect. Ever since then, a lot of proof of stake protocols have stalled on a weekly basis. They've made it quite okay to do that. That's not okay. I am grateful that Avalanche has been ticking along. I should also mention, for those of you who are into distributed systems, there is far more to building a stable, complicated system than just getting the consensus layer down pat. There is far more to it. What else is there? There's a whole lot of complicated dynamics that are not even under your control. So, for example, the fee estimation algorithms, the clients themselves and the fee estimation that they use can create bad interactions that create bad outcomes. And what's an example? You can have ratcheting effects if your fee estimation algorithms are not up to par. A ratcheting effect is a case where everybody estimates what their fees ought to be, and based on historical data, they decide, okay, the next fee ought to be this. And so what that ends up doing is that causes everybody to make a high estimate. And when you get the high estimate, then the historical data reflects a high value, so that even when the load goes away, the actual fees don't go down. So you can have all kinds of funky effects in a complex system. Now, these funky effects are essentially anomalies in the state space. So think of all the nodes, including the clients, as giant automata in a very complicated multidimensional state space. And so what you really want to do is you want to create sort of troughs. You want to create a sloped surface that causes your entire system overall, all of those automata, to gravitate towards a good state. You want them to just kind of go to a low energy, calm, good location and just rest there. But it's very hard to do this. So it's very easy to get into a situation where things get bad and then your nodes are stuck in a bad situation. Case in point from Solana, when the load spikes hit Solana, they used to have a bunch of problems where essentially they essentially get stuck in some portion of the state space where, for example, due to load, nodes begin to forward their transactions onto the next node, and then suddenly what you end up having is a crap ton of forwarding, and useless work on top of useless work, and that expands and and inflates the amount of work that the system has to do. So things end up going south for them because they had built this really fragile dynamic into their system. We knew about it, but how we don't want to say anything too negative about other systems. So in general, it's very hard to identify each and every one of these things, and so as a result, you end up getting into these situations where people who build these systems, end up messing up somehow, and things get messed up. And this happens all the time to other systems. I am super grateful that Avalanche has been doing incredibly well on this front. This is a testament to my entire team, as well as everybody else who contributed to Avalanche Go. And it's just been an amazing journey, identifying and sussing out each and every one of these bad interactions, bad state transitions, or bad dynamics, such that the system ends up going into a nice quiescent state when there's nothing to do, and everything essentially in the state space, all of the vectors, if you will, the tensors, do not create something stable up in an unwanted area of the space. So, okay, so far so good. That's I think my basic thing every night. This is the one thing that I'm really truly grateful for, that this thing has been proven robust, far beyond my expectations, and I'm thrilled for that. It took a lot of effort, and I'm really glad to see where it is now. Second, I'm thrilled that the platform is topping all-time highs. So we did another all-time high since I tweeted this. So this was at 1.5 million transactions per day. And I think yesterday or today, because of the time difference, also the day boundaries are a little complicated, but we ended up doing 1.6. So we're going up. This thing is just eating up transactions. There is no budging on the fee front. Go look at the C chain fees. I think it's just like 2 cents to do a swap or something, or maybe it's a fraction of a cent. I'm not even sure. It's something so small that is inconsequential. So there is no inherent ceiling to the top number. Let me say that again. This 1.5 M transactions per day, if it were to turn into 15 million transactions a day, we would eat that up without the budging of the fees on the C chain. The nice thing about subnets is that they are distinct and separate. They are failure isolated, they're performance isolated. What happens on one chain stays on that chain. It's kind of like Vegas. So this goes counter to everything that all these other people who are making noise online are saying and repeating to each other. They end up getting their information from thought leaders. They end up getting their information from Wikipedia. And I don't have the resources, I don't have the time, nor do I have the inclination to fight it all or to correct it all. When I was a little younger, perhaps I would try to get into arguments. I did try to do this when I was a professor. I did try to educate the world, but it's really hard. And when you deal with somebody who's above average IQ but is not an expert, it's really tough because they think they're super smart. They know better than you. And you tell them, look, your values, your weights that you're placing on different properties are not correct. And you end up having to go down a path that will yield no results, and then you don't even know if there's a good solution at the end, etc., etc. We've had these conversations. Anyway, so people are what they are. We went our way, and what we got as a result is an architecture that clearly scales. Look at the subnet architecture. If tomorrow I create another subnet, and it has however many millions transactions per day, it will not impact anything else. It will actually make AVAX more scarce because I need to tie down some AVAX for the validators that I have. But other than that, it will not impact the performance of any other network. Now, this is very different from Polkadot, very different from all of those people who are like talking about shared security, blah, blah, blah. If you want shared security, then you have systems that are inherently tied at the resource level and you cannot scale. So that's very, very different from us. And as a result, we're able to absorb the growth that we are poised to have. That growth is coming. So what I'm saying, we'll talk about that in a second, I'm sure. But this space is not going to stay where it's at. Just walk into the closest bank, find a friend who works there, and ask them to show you their internal systems. Go to any kind of a hedge fund. If you have a friend there, these are harder to find. If you have a friend at a hedge fund, ask to see their systems there. It's abysmal. So what we have provided with crypto is so much better than what the world's got. And the kinds of things that the regulators are concerned about, even those are better in crypto than they are in TradFi. I can build into the fabric a whole bunch of things that just will rule out those kinds of behaviors that the regulators are concerned about. So it's a fantastic new universe we're building, and we're poised to get there. Much of the 700 trillion plus of world's assets has to be in digital form. And there has to be a system that can absorb it all. It's not going to be a single chain. So ETH2 is not going to do it. It's not going to be Solana. Those are single chain systems. ETH2 maybe in the very future, whenever it figures out sharding, etc. And I'm not sure if they're going to get there. I hear noises that they may or may not get there. But you know, if the current reality is any indication, it'll be a long, long time. But we've got, or Avalanche has got already the architecture in it that can absorb the growth that we see in this space. So I'm really grateful for this. And the fact that the architecture has been validated, you know, we quietly issued, you know, the white paper. People didn't believe us. We built the system. People didn't believe us. It arrived with 3 chains. People kind of ignored it. We got a lot of activity on the C chain. People thought, oh, it's just the C chain. No, and then we now are showing the world, hey, look, you can create any number of subnets. And we got one DeFi kingdom. We got the Swimmer network. There's much more already in the works. And I lost track of the number of subnets that are in the pipeline. So once these come on board, it's undeniable now. At some point, people have to say, you know, these guys, they weren't like the other folks. They weren't just making stuff up. For one, no, I never want to play the expertise card, but we do have the world's experts when it comes to building distributed systems. But we also have a much better feel, I think, for what matters in this space. And that is providing the benefits of blockchains to as many people as possible in a way where each and every one of these chains is performance isolated, is fee isolated, is failure isolated from each other. And that's exactly what subnets provide. So I feel that by now we've been validated. Now, I've found that I'm always a couple of years ahead of everyone else. So I'm going to just sit here very quietly, and you know, I'll talk to you all, and but we'll just kind of sit here and we'll wait for the world to catch up to us. I think that's the only thing that makes sense. It always does. You know, I said a bunch of things about all sorts of things crypto, and every time I said something that's within my area of technical expertise, I've been spot on. So you can look at whatever you like on that front, you know, through the Bitcoin hash wars to whatever else, and so this is another one of these cases. This is the right way. This is the right architecture. Anybody who's not doing this will end up finding themselves going down a deep dark alley, and so power to them. But maybe perhaps there's light at the end of their alley. I don't think. The alleys I've heard about, the directions I've gotten, have been pretty not appealing. So, okay, so that's that. We talked about this. What's this? That was 1.39 million. That was a few days ago. This is old stuff. 17 million AVAX got staked. That's good. There's many more reasons to stake your AVAX, so people should be doing that. I think we'll see more of it. And there's people that still sleep on Avalanche. Yeah, I know. It's kind of weird, isn't it? So there's like coins up there that are just hype and dreams and hopes. And then there's a system like this one that works. And not only does it work, like if what people want are hype and hopes and dreams, well, we've got a very, very strong track record of actually delivering on the hype and hopes and dreams. So if you want to see X happen for any X uttered by someone else, then the team to bet on in crypto is the one that I've assembled, I think. And so it is what it is. And it's just, you know, we've been doing this for a long time. We did everything that ETH2 wanted to do far before ETH2 with the merge. We have a proof of stake chain that operates at a tremendous clip. And we've got finality far better than what ETH2 will deliver. And And there's a bunch of other chains ahead of us, and you just kind of look at them and you're like, okay, there's a bit of a discrepancy. So it's okay. That's fine. Market caps are market caps. That's great. Um, and So J1 is right here. It's kind of odd, but reality always catches up, right? So if you've got science behind you, you just have to just kind of chill, and the world will have to necessarily catch up to what you're saying because it's inescapable. So, okay, another thing I'm grateful for. I'm glad I didn't listen to public opinion on crypto Twitter. We didn't give a damn about what anyone else said about how to build systems. They build mediocre things. They end up building all these signature accrual protocols. They read Wikipedia and try to lecture to Kevin, myself, and a bunch of the other people that I'm not going to name who are really, truly the world experts in this space. We literally turned to them and said, you have it wrong. I don't care about your follower count. I don't care about your public persona, but you're headed down the wrong path. You've got the wrong ethos for building the system. You've got the wrong set of weights next to properties you might want. You do that, you're going to find yourself in a hellhole. You're going to find yourself, because of assumptions you've made, you then now have to do other things that make your assumptions even stronger. So if you think failures are likely, then you end up building stuff that makes failures more likely. You self-reinforce, you go down a particular path. Along the way, you will discover that indeed failures are more likely for you. And the wrong thing to do is to say, oh, hey, look at this. I thought it was dark, and I thought the way to get out of the dark was to dig a tunnel. And so now I'm digging a tunnel, and it's getting darker and darker. And so I was right. So I should dig more of a tunnel. Well, I think you're digging a pit. You're digging downwards into the center of a very, 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 very large celestial body. I mean, good luck, but it's just going to go the wrong way. And we got roasted for this. I get a lot of hatred from maxis of all kinds. Back in the day, I got a lot of hatred from Bitcoin maxis. It's okay. I mean, I love them to bits. And what hurts me these days are friends who've become Ethereum maxis, and then they say all sorts of things at me, and it's fine. I think we can disagree on the layer 2 vision. So I love ETH as it is. It's a fantastic system. I think there's an entry about gratitude towards Bitcoin and ETH as well. So I love these systems, but the L2 vision, I'm not a believer in, and I think we should be able to disagree in a respectful manner. And I think we should be able to pursue different paths, because it has been historically the case that a lot of development went towards infeasible, undesirable outcomes. Remember, VDFs, VRFs, RCAs, accumulators, verifiable random functions, verifiable delay functions. These were all at some point the key to Ethereum scaling. These were the key to scaling blockchains, and then full stop. If you try to do anything else, people, the same people who are now giving us a hard time online would give you a hard time saying, why would you ever do this? VDFs are clearly the future. Well, where did that take us? They've all been abandoned. So there was no vision there. And the L2 vision is another one of these things. You can go down that path. You're going to end up taking all of the TVL, and you're going to end up rewarding it to a single entity that's doing MEV on you, that requires trust, that requires centralization. You will have invented what we've got today with a lot more complexity and with a lot more steps. Might as well give your money to Citadel and ask them to run a transaction for you on the stock exchange, if what you're going for is one of these L2 things that really is a centralized thing underneath. And there is the vision itself is not a cohesive vision. It's not one that actually involves being able to go from one L2 to another. The difficulties of having a unified API across L2s is completely understated. Imagine if you're a dApp developer, which L2 do you develop for? Anyhow, so we literally said, look, you guys are headed the wrong way. And, there are many of you maybe, and that's fine. But the right thing that people will want is something that's uniform. It has the same underlying infrastructure. It has the same API across multiple chains. And the subnet architecture gives the developers that crucial ability to be able to go from one subnet to another with this exact same tooling without having to change a thing about the programmability model. So, oh yeah, this was cool. This was actually what prompted the gratitude. So I was asked by the government accounting office, so the GAO. I don't know if you've ever read any of their reports. Even as when I was in high school, in a different country, I wasn't in the United States. Even then, I used to read the GAO reports. It's essentially, think of it as a think tank, and think of it as very, very bright people who then go out and seek out the world's experts on different topics, seek their input, and try to make the government more efficient. And the GAO is completely independent. Think of it as a set of external inspectors, if you will, that come in and say the government is doing this wrong and it could be better, it should be better, etc. Here are the ways in which it could be better. Here are the ways in which we can bring technology to bear on different issues of import to the government. Also, the GAO contacted me a few days ago, and they had a bunch of questions about deploying blockchains for government processes. And as I was filling out the answers, I realized, look, all of their concerns, they were established a few years ago when all we had were first generation systems. They're worried about scale. They're worried about the user experience, and they're worried about a bunch of other things that by now have been addressed. Scalability is not a problem. Failure isolation is not a problem. Cross interaction of dApps is not a problem, given the right architecture. I'm not saying Avalanche is the only system with the right solution. There are others that are sort of vying in towards that same solution space, very slowly, because it takes time for people to say, "Oh, I was wrong." But we certainly have this one right. That scaling these chains is possible. Building something faster than Visa, eminently possible. I didn't think anyone would be able to do it. I'm so glad Avalanche is so much faster on a single chain than Visa, the centralized solution, is on average. So it's just fantastic to be in the situation where we are now. With Core, the front-end user experience is becoming much better. And it's going to improve even more from here. So it's now time to deploy things. The kinds of concerns that one might have had 3 years ago are very different from the concerns we now have. Maybe I should do a whole podcast about the concerns that I now see going forward, but it's a different world. And the world hasn't caught up to this. The people who trade these things, they're still living in the past. They're gonna have to see a whole bunch of reports from, this, that, and the other before they realize, oh God, there has been a sea change in how these systems ought to be built, and we're being left behind. So as I said, we'll chill and wait, but it is time to start deploying. If you're a developer, it's time to start thinking about building your demanding application on a blockchain. So, as I said, by no means are we done. There's much more work to be done, but blockchains are no longer slow, cumbersome databases. So people used to experiment with these things and then never push anything to production. Those days are gone. You can actually run a full-on service in production. Now, don't be going out there and trying to sort of Web3ify every dumb thing out there. So a lot of these applications don't need a blockchain. So anybody who says blockchain is the solution without thinking is probably selling you snake oil. Don't be doing that. Okay? So, but what you can do is if you do have something that inherently needs a chain, well, then we can get that going, and you can build it on a proper chain at a speed so fast that you can accommodate users without them knowing that they're interacting with a blockchain. We have reached that stage. So we no longer have to take crap from, oh, I work at Google and, compared to us, these things are slow. No, I've seen the databases you guys use at Google, and these things are competitive and they're not centralized. They're not going to steal a user's, what they will do is prescribed in code. They will do exactly what the code says. Unlike Google stuff, it can change on a dime. They will not collect people's data and sell it out. They're not going to build dossiers on people. Okay, those days are gone. I would have liked it if they were gone with the Cold War. We're not in East Berlin, collecting dossiers on each other and snitching on our friends and family. I thought those days were gone. Still happening, sadly, with Web 2. And so Web 3 is we can now accommodate Web 3 applications. It's now time to think about what kinds of applications benefit the most from a blockchain. Grateful for the core wallet. It lets me finally manage my coins and NFTs across chains. It's really cool and nice to use. I really needed a wallet that did justice to what the technology behind, and so I like using it. I'm grateful for the merge. I don't want to talk about Ethereum too much. I already mentioned it too much on this discussion. But we do want Ethereum to succeed. We want it to remain competitive, and we don't want it to destroy the planet. It's been destroying the planet. If you've been issuing your NFTs on Ethereum 1, good for you, I guess, or something, but not really. And it's not good for you. I don't know how you're going to display those NFTs at a museum in Europe. They really care about not destroying the environment over there. So I care. If I go and say, oh, where's your NFTs issued at? And they say ETH1, then I say, well, so greed over principles, eh? Like it's just a kind of a non-starter. I can't wait for the merge. The merge is going to be good for all of us. And as I said, I don't believe in the L2 vision. It's not going to yield an elegant system overall. But we do support L2s. Should they ever become trustless and feasible and decentralized, they're going to work on Avalanche just as well. And they are fine to have if people could actually make one that actually works. It hasn't happened yet. I'm grateful to Bitcoin and Ethereum in general for paving the way. And I really am. They've done an amazing job. I think we all work to make Bitcoin a thing. We all work to get regulators to approach it with a light touch. We all worked hard to make Ethereum a success. We all worked hard to get the smart contract space to be a vibrant space. And I know what I did. I know how hard people worked at this. I know the other OGs as well. And so those efforts are bearing fruit. So it's wonderful to be in that situation. Oh, I did say I love their maxis as well. But yeah, I really do. I think whenever I see maximalism in another chain, I feel great. That's just the death toll for that chain. People turn into maximalists when it's just a step away from science. They start doing purity tests. They start asking if you believe in their leader, et cetera, et cetera. I shouldn't have to believe in a leader if I'm going to adopt a vision. The vision should speak for itself. It should be science-based. That's the only religion I've got. And so when I see maxis take over, that's great for us. And that's been part of the driving feature for why people come to Avalanche. We have a really positive community. It's science-based. If I say something wrong, then it's wrong. It's just there's no ego. If I end up outlining a vision that makes no sense, someone says that, I will actually revert. It's not a big deal for me to say, hey, I was wrong. I've been wrong on a few things. So it's this is how this works in Avalanche. And there's a lot of things happening in other chains that I see where the maxis take over and they start doing things about creating value, etc. They are trying to pump their bags essentially. The token distribution has already taken place, and they want to do some kind of a maneuver that will bring their value up, and that's what you're seeing, I think, with these maximalist raids on people's reputations and so forth. And it is what it is. It's fine. So it's been great for us. It drives the young people to chains where there's innovation happening, and innovation is not happening in with these folks. Do you really want to be in a room with a bunch of maxis or religiously parroting the same stuff? How are they going to build anything? How are they going to come up with anything creative? Do they? Empirically, no. Empirically, they're very slow. Like, it's just data doesn't lie. We just look back at how much code has been built, what has been issued so far. Very, very sad. So, Bitcoin and Ethereum have been fantastic, though, in terms of building the foundation for everyone else to follow. So, I'm grateful for institutional adoption. It's happening behind the scenes. I don't know how else to convey this to you. There's a whole bunch of NDAs, so I can't tell you anything specific, other than to say that that institutions are now treating crypto entirely differently, even compared to 2 years ago. About 2.5 years ago, crypto was still on the fringes, and now it isn't. And if you think about what these sort of TradFi shops do, they trade a bunch of things that they have no qualms about trading. They trade pork bellies. They trade, copper. It trade a whole bunch of things whose like underlying dynamics they don't understand. And pork bellies and so forth, maybe some farmers use it to hedge, but really like most of that is speculation. This stuff, crypto, has the ability to actually provide a better technological foundation for us. It's a very different kind of asset, and it's an asset class that has now received acceptance. And so this is a fantastic thing to see. It's not often, in fact, in my lifetime, only very few new asset classes have been introduced. I think maybe when I was a kid, derivatives of different kinds started coming up. Credit default swaps came in at some point, and we know how disastrous that was in the end. But now this is a very different asset class, one that actually does improve the human condition. At least has the potential to, and it's getting the acceptance that it deserves. So this is a fantastic outcome. Is it true that macro fears will sideline capital? Yes. If people are afraid that the Fed will hike, whatever, like will do a huge interest rate hike, they will switch out into cash or cash equivalents. And so, that's going to happen. Money will come and come in and out. Timing that is very hard. But the bottom line is that every financial firm now treats crypto with respect. Perhaps not every. Most financial firms now treat crypto with respect. The bull market, when it comes, and I can't tell you when it comes, no one can. Timing that is really, really hard. And I assure you, if most people say it's about to arrive, then it's too late to enter it. Okay. So when the bull market arrives, it's going to be very exciting. You'll see a lot of really interesting things being pushed out. How do I know this? You figure it out, because I'm building some of them. Okay, so let's see. So this is an interesting thing. I was just sitting around here, just kind of shaking gently here and thinking, I'm so glad that we made the right call to move our headquarters to New York City. So why did we go there? We went there because that's where finance is. And Avalanche was designed to digitize all of the world's assets. And that's where the assets are controlled from. If I had seen blockchains as a tech play, if I had seen this as a game of writing software and stopping there, if I had seen this as, all this needs is like, super geeky glasses and a bunch of techie things, if I had turned into a nerd about this, then I would have gone to San Francisco. And I thought about doing this, and we decided not to. Tech plays are headquartered in the Bay Area, and tech plays will get you tech buddies. You can maybe do something with other blue chip companies. Facebook's there, I don't know, Twitter's there, Google's there, etc. So that's fine. You go there and you connect to them. But really, this is a finance game. The real valuable assets are not in techie hands. They're in the hands of the financial institutions. So the move to New York was a fantastic idea for us. I'm so grateful. Some chains or some systems, some projects are headquartered in a tax haven. So I talk to people, where are you located? Austin, Florida, Bahamas, some unknown place in Southeast Asia. I cannot tell you where I am, blah, blah, I'm doing something questionable. All of these, I think these are asinine plays. These people are not, in some sense, they lack the legitimacy. At least in my eyes, the projects tend to be very short-lived. They're not here to stay. They're here to flip some coins. Coins may or may not work, but I'm sure that these people will not be in this game for long. So we have a very legitimate, very genuine product that does what it says it does. It's designed to digitize all of the world's assets. We did everything according to that goal, and I'm validated every time I look back and think, was this the right choice? It was such the right choice. Is New York City kind of hard to live in the summer? Absolutely. But did I escape out of New York City for a couple of weeks? I did. But that's where we are headquartered, and I'm so glad that that's exactly where we've been, and those connections have been amazing to us. So I'm very glad that we brought a ton of new tech into the blockchain space. We did introduce a new consensus protocol. This is nothing short of groundbreaking. Doesn't happen all that often. It happened once in the 70s, once again with Satoshi, and once again with Avalanche. That's the short history of my field of distributed systems. There are only 3 kinds of consensus protocols: classical, proof of work, or Nakamoto consensus, and Avalanche. There's nothing else. Everybody else is trying to resurrect these classicals. Great, good luck to them. They will find that those are fragile, that they're actually prone to being taken over by a minority cabal because of the way they do committee selection, and on and on. These are things that I've mentioned before. I don't even mention these anymore. It's just let's live and learn. It'll be more fun. I want to see the failures. It's going to be kind of interesting. And why? Because I tried warning people about the failures and they wouldn't listen. I warned people that the Lightning Network would not amount to much. And our bridge has bridged over almost as much value as the Lightning Network now. And we've been validated across so many of these prescient calls. And it's not because I'm super smart or anything. I just look at the science and I'm in touch with it. And I just apply the obvious extrapolation given what a normal person in command of the science would think. So that's sort of what's brought us here. Okay, in addition to the new consensus protocol, we also brought in the world's fastest, cheapest, most secure bridge. It's based on SGX technology. It's the secure execution technology. Every now and then you're going to hear that there was some kind of an exploit, etc. SGX is not the end-all, be-all of our technology. It's a layer. It's an additional layer that makes sure that even the operator cannot misbehave. So there's so these even these these blips that you hear about, this like esoteric flaw is found, etc. Given our setup and configuration, even during the period where the announcement is made, there is no vulnerability. Typically because we run these things on dedicated machines where no one else can run anything. And then typically when the announcements are made, they come with the patch, and we apply the patches immediately, of course, yielding, again, a very strong guarantee of whatever these guarantees might be. And there's much more coming from us. The Core wallet is a fantastic experience. If you're used to MetaMask, check out Core, very, very different. And there's much more to come. I am feeling much better about life in general because the pipeline of sort of built cool stuff that hasn't been released yet is, when there's like new stuff to come, I get very excited. And so if you are hearing any kind of excitement, it's mostly because of that. Okay, so what else is happening? I'm grateful for the community that we've built. I don't want to sound too sappy. I think I've gone on long enough, but there's a reason why we're high in TPS, transactions per second, and low in dramas per second. And I think we played a bunch of cards right. We did make some judgment calls every now and then. Happy to talk about those at some point. I have mentioned them here as they happened, but they didn't affect us in the end. And but most importantly, we ended up building a community of people who are positive, who are tech-oriented, who are science-based. They come to Avalanche for a variety of reasons, the technology being the chief among them, and they stay in Avalanche because of the interpersonal connections that we've built with what I consider to be one of the nicest set of people that I've ever interacted with in any professional capacity. Now you can say, hey, you spent a lot of time as an academic, and academics are notorious. Yes, I know. My bars, was low. So maybe you can say that. But in any case, I am grateful for the community we've built. It's fantastic. Oh, you should pencil in mid to late March for the next summit. The Avalanche Summit is going to be held probably in Barcelona. Not 100% official yet, but pencil it in for now. I'll let you guys know when it's been made official. But I'm really excited to have the next one. Last one was epic. By far the best conference I've been to. And from everyone who came, I heard that it's by far the best conference they've been to. Really was a great conference. And no BS talk, no moon talk, no one trying to impress the community with, crazy visions and terms that are made up phrases, etc. Just solid delivery of good ideas, great interactions, and a great mix of both techies, business people, and others. So do come. Okay, in crypto news, in the remaining no time that we've got, let's talk a little bit about big things that are happening. Tornado Cash got blacklisted by the US Treasury. It got put on the OFAC list. This is a big deal for all of us. And this is the kind of thing that's going to reveal which systems are centralized and which ones are not. So there's a variant of Tornado Cash on just about every system. So there's a Tornado Cash on Arbitrum, for example. It's on L2. It's there's Tornado Cash, of course, in Ethereum, and there are different ways that people go through to get to Ethereum. Now, the companies that interact with these chains, they are regulated entities. They have no choice in the matter except to comply. So if you are expecting that somebody will take a rebel stance and defy OFAC sanctions, then you are deluded, because defying OFAC sanctions is a very, very short path to jail. You'll actually go to criminal jail. And I don't know what else will happen to you. Your entire company will get taken down. I mean, terrible things will happen. Okay, so that's not in the cards for any legitimate effort. And so it's not a surprise that when Tornado Cash got placed on the OFAC list, that Infura stopped taking in transactions that go and touch Tornado Cash. That's normal. That's to be expected. What I'm really curious about is what will happen to L2s. The L2s that are centralized, they do have to comply, and they too will have to take down those transactions. And if that's the case, then those L2s lack the most basic requirement to be used for any decentralized system. They are subject to a single takedown notice, and therefore they will not be able to withstand a legal attack. So this is a litmus test of various different visions for scaling. If the vision makes sense, then there's a path here, and Tornado Cash and equivalents will continue to function. And if it doesn't, then I think the whole vision is going to begin to fail. So I'm very curious to see what will happen on these L2s. So that's that. There is a dark side to the story that even as I speak, one of the developers who was involved in Tornado Cash was detained in the Netherlands for, it appears, his involvement in Tornado Cash as a developer. Now, we don't have the full story yet. It's too early. It could well be that he traveled to sanctioned countries to personally facilitate transactions using Tornado Cash. If he did that, that's something different. That's an active effort to evade sanctions. That's illegal in the United States. It's illegal, presumably, in Holland. And therefore, there's some justifiable case, perhaps, within the law in those countries. That could be. I don't know that. But if it is just because he contributed to a code base, then that sets a terrible precedent. And as a developer, as a normal person, as a professor, as I don't know what, as a normal person with any sense of ethics and sensibility, I have to say that writing code is a First Amendment right. You should be able to write code for any purpose. It's just a free expression of your ideas. And last I checked, we took pride in having built a society where people can express any idea that they have, modulo the well-known restrictions to First Amendment. So this has got to be, I'm assuming that there is more to the story that we haven't seen yet. So I will hold my breath for another week or so and not come out strongly against this. But what I am seeing, if it is indeed the case that all this person did was contribute to the code, then he's done nothing wrong whatsoever. So the code was not placed on the OFAC list until not the code. The contract is on the OFAC list. The code is the code. We should be able to write the code any day, every day, to his heart's content. The same way I used to write code when I was in middle school. I didn't have a computer. I would write it on paper. And so to come and say, oh, this code to write now, that's just thought policing. And that's not who we are. So we can impose sanctions. We can do all sorts of things without having to compromise who we are. So I'm worried about that. But again, I will hold my breath for a little bit to learn more about this case, because it's just been a few hours since he's been arrested. So we don't really have the full details. It might well be because he did something else in addition to being involved as a dev in Tornado Cash. Okay. Oh yeah, this happened. AVAX and XLM got onboarded to Robinhood, so people on Robinhood can go and buy them, etc. That's great. That was nice to see. Robinhood's got a lot of other issues with it, but it's a fine platform, I guess. I'm glad they're doing the right things here. Somebody's creating this thing called a CurateDAO. I'm not sure how much of my audience is familiar with token curated. What is it? TCRs, token curated, whatever the hex. So these token curated lists are really, really amazing. So they want to build something like Pinterest, but on the blockchain. And they want to do it as a dApp on Avalanche. I can't wait to see this and use this. I haven't been able to use Pinterest. I created an account and it's just been a mess. I can't log in. It's just a little, I don't know, it's just hard to use. It's not, I guess I'm not their target audience or something. But I would love to see it on a blockchain. I would love to see people use this to curate interesting things, to run quick polls and whatnot. And so I'm curious. I've always been interested in election and voting strategies on using blockchains as well. I'm not suggesting that any and every application there is good, but I am a strong believer that there is a path towards building viable applications, even for voting, all using blockchains. So I'm curious to see how this is going to go as the Web3 at its best, and can't wait to see it happen. And final thing. Oh, my video cannot be loaded. I can't share this video with you for some reason. I'm signed out. Well, oh well. So then I guess I've been signed out. So I won't be able to share that video with you. But those of you who are at the Korea Blockchain Week, you probably know that Avalanche is there. Avalabs is there with quite a few people. And so if you want to talk to people who are building the next generation blockchains, if you have a demanding application and you cannot find any other system that supports what you want to do, or if you found systems that claim to support what you want to do, but you want to get a second opinion, do come and talk to us. We have the Avalanche Hack House in Korea, in Seoul. We did have a venue for it. That venue got flooded due to torrential rains in Seoul. And at the very last minute, the whole entire operation had to be moved to a different location. It's been causing an enormous amount of stress for the folks that we sent there. And but I hear that the new venue is running up to Avalanche standards. I hear nothing but the best impressions from the people who went there. So go check it out. As I said, check to see if what I said makes sense. Check to see if the Avalanche people are welcoming. Check to see if they're technically knowledgeable. If you're in Korea, this is your chance to double check what I said earlier in the podcast. I think you'll come away pleasantly surprised and impressed by the people that we have in our community. So that's it for me today. Thank you for bearing with me. I'm going to spend just a few more days here and then run back to New York City. And I cannot wait to be back with my folks at Avalabs and in touch with the Avalanche community in the United States. And along the way, thank you very much for, again, very, very grateful to have you all on board. Very grateful to have built the system that we built together, and very much looking forward to building even better, greater things again together with your help. Thank you. Take care.